Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 71 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles. I'm here with Jackson, Nick, and Joey. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling great, feeling great. Happy to start our season predictions.
Yeah. Talking about what is it? The Pacific today? Is that the name of the division?
Yep.
Yes.
And Miles, you were just saying how it's a very competitive division. Only separated by 5 games this year from top to bottom.
Yep.
That's wild.
Very, very tight division. For those watching on YouTube, I've moved into college. I'm in a much better room than I was last year as far as recording, so it should be a lot better. But yes,
Yeah,
this
Miles, you look fantastic. You're glowing.
All right, holy glaze, bro. Will you chill?
Well, this is the first of 6 division preview episodes where we are going to go through every single division, answer some questions, some things we hope to see from this team, what would mark a successful season, and ultimately we're going to get to the win total predictions. These are all from BetMGM, and we are going to say whether we think they will win more or less games. So let's get started. First, we're going to go in the order of how they finished in the standings last year. And like Nick said, it was a 5-game difference from 51 wins to 46. Very, very close. But starting off with the Los Angeles Clippers, who had a very interesting offseason, a team that probably made some of the most moves of the summer. Most notably, they lost Paul George. He went to the Philadelphia 76ers. They traded Russell Westbrook, and they signed a lot of different role player guys. This is their full roster. They got Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Kevin Porter Jr., which was a weird oddball signing, Nick Batum back to the Clippers, Mo Bamba. Happy birthday to James Harden, actually, on the day we're recording this, the 35th birthday.
Yay! The beard.
Is he gonna wear a fat suit?
The fat suit.
But Nick, why don't you get us started? What is a question that you have for the Clippers heading into next season?
Well, for me, it's what are they going to look like without Paul George? I think that's probably the biggest question. And what's their next move after that? Maybe that's kind of what I'm wondering. I think it's going to be pretty important how they start the year, because if it goes south and then all of a sudden, James Harden is 35 today, is missing games, Kawhi's missing games, it could go south quickly. Yeah, that's what I think. Big picture, how is really important how they start the year. Selfishly, like I was talking about in the pre-pod lobby, I'm looking to see how much they play a certain role bench guy that didn't get too many minutes last year, but he goes by the name of Bones Highland, and just showing Bones Highland some love. He's one of my favorite players. Yeah, I mean, they still have high top-level guys in Kawhi and Harden. They got an interesting rest of their roster. It's kind of like a meme squad with Mo Bamba, Kai Jones, and Kevin Porter Jr. Bit of a meme team there. And then a couple 2-year guys, Jordan Miller and Kobe Brown. I'm looking forward to watching them. Hopefully they get some minutes this year.
They were very, very good in the summer league as well. I mean, I somehow forgot to mention, of course, they are moving into the huge Intuit Dome starting this season. So, I mean, you're right. It's going to be big how they start the season to get – I mean, I'm sure all the fans are going to be, checking out the new place, who's going to be in that Clipper fan wall area. But to look at their schedule, actually, to start the season, of course, they start on Wednesday on ESPN against the Phoenix Suns, another team that we will talk about later. But then it is not easy to start the season. They go to Denver. They go to Golden State. They have a game against Portland, which is probably their easiest game. But then Phoenix, the Thunder, Spurs, easier one again. But then the Sixers, the Kings, their first 10 games, there's only 2 easy ones in their first 10. And it's not like it's going to be, easy by any means for any of these teams. But it's definitely not going to be easy for them to start the season.
Yeah, another thing I was thinking about with all these win totals for these Western Conference teams is the fact that the East is pretty competitive this year, and there's gonna be some times that you're going out east on a road trip, and it might look like a 4-6 trip or a 3-6 trip, and teams like the Magic and Indiana and New York then get beat up on a little bit, so those win totals might be lower than in previous years just because of that.
Definitely makes sense. I'm definitely intrigued on how they're going to start next year, especially with that schedule. They have to get to a hot start if they're going to compete in definitely one of the most competitive divisions. Divisions don't matter as much in the NBA as it does in baseball or the NFL, but you still play each of these guys 4 times a year in your division. So you need to do well against them. My question is probably, especially with Paul George gone, can James Harden go back to how he was? Not maybe like Houston Rockets days, James Harden, but maybe like Philadelphia or like because like he was still good. He was still a great second option for them. It just didn't work out when he was out east. But I don't know if they want any kind of chance to even get remotely close to those 51 games they won last year. He needs to be back and consistent. I know that was a big trouble for him last year where his numbers looked all right, but it was like half the games were like, oh, he was really good. And then half the games is like, did he even play the game?
Yeah, well, I mean, if there's a question about James Harden being the second option on a good team or not, like it didn't work in Philly, like you were saying, and he had, the best number one option in the league, arguably. And so to think that Kawhi is going to be a number one that he can like fall back and be a second best option, it doesn't make, yeah, not
He
gonna
just
happen.
needs to be a great second option. I'm like talking like a possible number one because like we
Yeah,
all know with Kawhi, he's going to be injured at least a little bit. Can James Harden handle the load? Because honestly, he's 35 now. Who knows? His best years are definitely behind him. I still hold out hope that he can be at least in an elite a level sometimes. And if he can do that, I feel hopeful for the Clippers, but it's gonna be very tough.
Definitely going to be tough.
Yeah.
The James Harden point is definitely huge. In the regular season, he definitely had his worst numbers statistically since, he was coming off the bench. And that's expected with him declining. And he was kind of the third option there when he got traded to LA last season. But again, one of those other guys that was ahead of him is now gone. So you wonder if more shots could be there for him. I mean, he's always a great playmaker. Like you said, he was a pretty darn good second option in Philadelphia. Like his last season there, he led the whole league in assists again at 11 assists, gave you 21 points per game. And even last season, when it came to playoff time, those first 4 games against Dallas, he was awesome, especially in that game 4 victory where they were up by 30. They blew the lead. Harden kind of closed the game out for them. Through those first 4 games, he averaged um, 26 points per game on 54% shooting. Just those last 2 games, he scored 7 and 16, and then it just
wow.
completely unraveled. But that's kind of been the story with James Harden. Not even just at his older age, but how he kind of declines as playoff series go on.
It's consistency for me, is like you said. Like he definitely still has the talent. That talent and skill isn't going to go away with his age, I don't think. Especially the way he plays the game and the way he can shoot the ball effectively and pass the ball extremely effectively. It's just consistency. Can he do it on a day to day, night in and night out basis? It's going to be extremely tough because you're going to have to bring your A game because Nick mentioned how the East is going to be super competitive this year. The West is still the West. Like you're battling up against the best teams in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, I just think this Clippers team is fragile, and I say that because their star player is fragile. And this is, I think, arguably the worst team that Kawhi Leonard has ever had around him. So it gives him less leeway to miss games. So if he does miss a lot of games, I don't see them winning many at all. Outside of unless James Harden obviously pops off. But I don't have that much hope for the Clippers. I'm going to be honest, just because as
I
someone who
also,
drafted
yeah.
Kawhi Leonard 3 years in a row in fantasy, I don't trust him anymore.
That is that is the thing. I mean, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard. I mean, last season they were pretty durable. I mean, for guys that are getting older. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, he played in 68 games last year. Crazy to think this was the first season he played more than 60 games since his crazy year back in 2017 for the Spurs 7 years ago. So it's been a while since he's played in a lot of games. He did this year, had a great year. We mentioned him during our top 10 power forward video. But yeah, I think that's my question. Like, can the Clippers get something from some other players in the event that Kawhi Leonard is injured, James Harden is injured? I think they did a decent job with Paul George wanting to go to Philly of getting those role players. I mean, you look at this team. I mean, they have a lot of guys that can play and give solid minutes. Like we just saw Derek Jones Jr. in Dallas. He's used to being a starter. He can be that athletic defensive type of player. I think this Clippers team will be solid defensively. That's one thing I can say about this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still have a lot of depth. Sorry, Jackson. Yeah,
Yeah.
deep roster.
Yeah, as much as I hate to say it, I think Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be a really big part of this team, and I think if they're successful, he's going to be a potential sixth man of the year. If they are successful. I mean,
that's interesting.
Like, just because I think he's going to get playing time as much as we all are going to hate to see it. It's the same thing with like Miles Bridges. He's going to get playing time. Like, they signed him. If you're going to sign him, because they didn't. I mean, it wasn't like a small contract. It was kind of like, what was it, 4 years, 50 or something?
Oh no, it wasn't anything. I think it was like a 2 for $4. It was something small.
Oh wait, 4 over 50 is what he got from us, but we don't talk
about from the
Houston. Yeah. But I think I have another question. If they finish as like a 3 or 4 seed somehow miraculously, is Kawhi Leonard like an MVP final, like top 3 MVP guy?
I think absolutely. I mean, it depends on how much he plays. I mean, this can kind of go into what we hope to see from the Clippers. And for me, it's Kawhi Leonard. I want to see him play at least 65 games. I want him to qualify for the awards like he did last year. He was great. He was all NBA second team. Because I think this team will go as Kawhi goes. And if he's healthy, he's always a threat out there on both ends of the floor. It's just the question of whether or not he can do it or not.
Yeah. That's another thing with James Harden. Like, it's going to be tough for him to get acclimated because he's going to be like, this is the first time he's going to be with like the second option to a star who plays more than 25 games.
Oh, I mean, he's definitely able to, be the second fiddle. I mean,
no, I'm saying, but like the guy he had to get acclimated to before, he wasn't always there. Like,
all right.
See, Nick got it.
That's so bad. Nick, what is something that you're hoping to see from the Clippers?
Competitive basketball. I hope that this team is still able to show up on a nightly basis, kind of how they did last year, win the division. I know we're getting into their over-under stuff, so I'm just going to kind of lead right into it. I think that they're going to hit the under, basically, and my prediction comes down to just James Harden and my confidence level in him not being able to play at a high enough level to win enough games to win 42, and like they're in the toughest conference in basketball, probably with the Lakers and the Suns and the Warriors.
Grizzlies.
So
the Kings,
not the Grizzlies, but
the Kings.
Stupid take.
Yeah, James he averaged 15 or 16 and a half last year. He'll be without Paul George this year, so he'll hopefully get some more shots. But yeah.
What is the over-under officially for them?
The over-under official for the Clippers is 42.5 games.
I am also probably going to go under with that. As my biggest question was about James Harden, I'm with Nick. I just don't have a confidence level. You were trying to replace Paul George, who had a fantastic year last year, with a bunch of role players. I don't think it's going to mesh well, especially with like how loaded, especially this division and the West is with like superstars, especially on that wing, the shooting guard, small forward positions. I just don't think they can match up well enough with any of those Western teams. But what I'm most looking forward to for their season, I almost skipped over that question. Honestly, pretty simple. Their new stadium. I'm honestly super excited about it. I think it's going to be super cool. I love the way they're putting the fan wall. I love the way Steve Ballmer wants to do it. It reminds me of like soccer. I watch a lot of soccer, European soccer. I love my team Chelsea. And like the fandom there, it's like they're all standing the whole time, waving the flag, making a lot of noise. I want to see that in in an NBA arena, and I think this is like the first real step we're going to see, and I'm super hyped about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair.
Yeah, so another question that I actually was just thinking about while talking about the Clippers that kind of goes into what we've been saying with James Harden, Kawhi Leonard not being the most durable. Who on the Clippers can be the third guy? We really don't know. Like, who is going to be their third leading scorer? Probably Norman Powell, who
I think
comes
it'll
off
be
the bench.
KPJ. I think it'll be KPJ.
You think you're all right? That's going to be Jackson's high man, Kevin Porter Jr.
Trey Mann is.
I don't want it
that
to be,
lineup.
but I think it's gonna be Kevin Porter Jr. Kevin Porter Jr. is, I mean, he's still a walking bucket.
He's also a walking felon, so.
Well, true. I'm not saying. I mean, but they're gonna rely on him to score. It's gonna be him, Norman Powell, and then the other two. Like those will be their scores.
I think Zubac is going to pop off for like 15 to 17 points a game this year. I think he's going to be huge.
15 and 9 could be in play. I mean, they
15 and 9. That's good enough for your third score. Oh,
yeah.
whoa. What
absolutely.
was that?
I was just talking about the Intuit Dome. I wanted to grab this picture.
Yeah, that looks so sick.
The Dome. This is their, brand new arena. It just looks ridiculous. I mean, all the stats they show, the score. I mean, that's crazy. It's literally a ring above the court just to see all that type of stuff. But
literally just a jam-packed SoFi Stadium.
Yeah,
like when the Rams play, that's literally what it is. But it looks way better in an NBA arena, I think.
What marks success for the Clippers this season? You guys mentioned you're taking the under.
I think a playoff berth.
Yeah, playoff berth would be excellent for this team if they could get to there.
Do you want me to talk about as a fan or like realistic expectations? Because realistic expectations, playoff berth would be huge. If you're a fan, because you're in LA and I just assume you're super spoiled, you want them to be at least getting into the second round because you have high expectations with them. I know Steve Ballmer wants to be a winner. He's invested a lot into this team.
Well,
I think for that, Mark, and it's not going to happen. So I don't see who's their coach.
Ty Lue.
Yeah, he's getting fired by Christmas.
What?
That's my hot take for the Clippers. He's getting fired by Christmas.
That is, oh my goodness gracious.
That's crazy.
We'll see.
No, I think the Clippers, I mean, talking realistic success, it's if they get in the playoffs, probably. I mean, that's probably the ceiling with this team. That may be a better way to frame this, is what is their ceiling, what is their floor? I think their ceiling, their absolute best, is they sneak into the playoffs. I might go a couple games over, honestly, because 42, it still seems kind of low. Like,
yeah,
this has them at 9 games basically being worse, and they lost Paul George, who was really good. But you guys think Paul George is worth 9 wins when they still got solid players?
I think we're overhyping how good, like how much Paul George meant in a sense, because I think the depth they got back was like enough to make up for it, I think.
I just think every other team got better.
That's true.
They did it.
I mean,
they just did it.
I mean, the Suns got a little better.
They finally got a true point guard. We can talk about them later. The Kings we can talk about later. They got DeRozan and lost Harrison Barnes. That's a huge upgrade.
The Warriors did.
The Warriors lost Klay Thompson, so that's a huge upgrade.
That's
a pretty big upgrade right there.
Oh gosh! Well, this is the good coming from the guy who nearly guaranteed Klay would be in China after the game against the Sacramento Kings. So the thing is, like, the Clippers got worse. A lot of the teams in the West got better, but there's always a few of those teams that do worse than expected, and a couple other teams that do better than expected. So the Clippers, I think, like you said, Nick, I think this is a team that is no matter what going to be competitive. Like no matter who's on the floor. That's what I've always thought of with the Clippers and a Ty Lue team. You're going to get guys out there that are going to play hard. They're going to be solid on both ends of the floor. It's just they may just have some tough times in clutch situations because if Kawhi's not on the floor, really don't trust many other players. Like James Harden can make plays at the end of games at this point, but as far as taking clutch shots at the end of games, that might be tough for them to close games. I think they're going to be in a lot of close games.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else on the Clippers?
I don't think so.
All right, let's move on. Let's keep the ball rolling here by moving on to the Phoenix Suns, who I think had a pretty big, W of an offseason. Last year they were a pretty single-minded team with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. Very strict isolation team, scoring team, mid-range team. Not many point guards, not much center depth on that team. Their only real loss this offseason was Eric Gordon. He went to the 76ers, and they signed 2 point guards, Monte Morris, Tyus Jones, 2 of the best backup point guards in the whole NBA. And they got themselves Mason Plumlee. They actually have a backup center. That's definitely an upgrade over Drew Eubanks. So I think they had a pretty successful offseason. I could say their over-under right now is 46.5. We can kind of mention that if we want to with any of these. But Jackson, we'll start with you. What is your big question about the Phoenix Suns heading into the season?
I think it's still, can Beal produce enough to make paying him 50 M's worth? Like not even like produce enough to match what being paid 50 million is worth, but like even just like playing to like someone who's worth like 30 million. I think that's a big thing. He needs to play like that star, like that 21 plus point per game. I think that's all they need from him score, because Book and KD will do the rest. Booker, I think, got way better this offseason just from his Team USA experience, showing why he's like that he's been working on his defense. And Kevin Durant's still Kevin Durant. I mean, I ranked him low in my top 50, but like also, I mean,
it's Kevin Durant.
That wasn't me saying he's bad or anything. It's just me saying the guys below him played a little better this past season. And I think the Olympics helped him too, because I think he lost a lot of not confidence, but definitely a little bit of swag last year, especially after that first round exit where they just got obliterated.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, what about you?
For me, obviously the big question is, will it be able to work in year 2 with these 3 guys together? I'm going to be looking for like health and how we said about the Clippers, like consistency from their roster. Like we've seen them play very well against good teams, but also like not be able to be on the court and then stink it up versus bad teams. So, I would love to see them go 16-0 and have a hot start to the year, because another team that's competing up at the top of the West would be great to watch and enjoy. But, the bar's pretty high that they set for themselves. So they got to live up to that, and we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, the Phoenix Suns, looking at their schedule as well, they have a schedule that's got a lot of in-the-middle teams potentially. When at the end of the season, we may look at this, start of the season and be like, man, these teams that the Suns played are all kind of in the middle there. They start at the Clippers in the Intuit Dome, then the Lakers, both games in LA, then home for Dallas, Lakers again, and the Clippers. They're playing 3 teams in the first 5 games. But they could they could start the season 5-0. They could start at 0-5. You just don't really know with this team. I think those are definitely 2.
I don't think they'll start at 0-5. I'd be shocked if they start at 0-5. I mean,
yeah,
Grayson
I don't think
Allen will
so
be back.
either.
They didn't have him at the end of last year. He's a key rotation, like talking 6-man guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Joey, how about you?
Yeah, I think my question is, can the role players step up? I know about all these star guys, and we have big question marks about Bradley Beal because he just didn't have his best year, I don't think. But guys like Grayson Allen, who had a fantastic last year, Tyus Jones and Monte Morris need to step up. Okogie, Plumlee as the backup center needs to be a big help this year because they were just lacking in the big men last year. So I really think those role players just really need to like click and just support these star players as best they can. If they do that, I would go the over on that one. I'll be honest, I might have another hot take for this team.
Oh God,
I like these hot
I
takes.
already I think I might have one as well. But Joey, what's yours?
I think Devin Booker finishes in the top 5 MVP voting this year.
okay, I like that one a
Ooh,
lot better
I like
than
that
the
one.
other one.
His like what Goglin said about his defense, and last year was his playmaking. He is turning into such a complete basketball player, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I think this year, at least, it clicks a little better for them. That even if they get a top 4 seed in the West, and they just kind of flip flop with the Clippers and get a top 4 seed in the West, I think he could definitely be in the running for it. Not saying he's going to win it, but at least top 5 voting. I think
I don't know.
is a big possibility.
Top 4 would be tough because you'd have to have a Luka last year-esque season to be top 5. If they're like the 4th or 5th seed, I think they'd have to be a top 2 to 3 seed for him to like kind of be in that conversation, unless he comes out and averages like 33, which I think it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna like, but I think, like I said with Kevin Durant, that swagger, I think a lot of it's like kind of he's transferring a lot of that and like giving or helping Book get that swagger. And I think Book's playing a lot more confidently, and I think it's going to help him a lot. I don't dislike that take because I could see this team being a 2 to 3 seed. But if they're like a 4th through like anything after that, it's going to be really tough.
Miles, I do want to hear your hot take, but real quick, let me just say that I do like Joey's take because the problem that this Suns team had last year was like depth, and it still is a problem. But the depth problem that they had wasn't from like the wing spots. They have Booker and Beal and Durant, and your top 3 guys are all sort of wing. I mean, Beal's a 2, but the other 2 guys are wing players, and now they have Tyus Jones and Monte Morris. So that kind of I mean, one of those 2 guys are going to be on the court at the end of the game. And then the pressure is kind of taken off of Beal, Book, and Durant so that they can operate as they do.
Yeah, I mean, Phoenix, if I had showed you this chart, last season, Devin Booker would have been the only point guard on this team. Mason Plumlee would have been gone. Their backup center was Drew Eubanks, as I said. So they definitely have improved. My question for this team is what is their starting lineup going to be? What are they going to do with their starting lineup? Because they have, Beal, Booker, and Durant. Of course, they need a point guard. That was their biggest problem last season. Nurkic is going to be the 5. But is there enough, room for all those guys to coexist in the same lineup? Mainly talking about Beal, Booker, and Durant. That's what I mentioned this hot take a while ago. Personally, I think the Suns are going to get off to a rough start, and Bradley Beal is going to be asked to come off the bench to lead the second unit because I don't think there's enough basketball for all those guys to work in the same lineup right now. I could be wrong, but
I think Beal's going to get pushed to the bench within the first 5 to 7 games, and I think he's going to go on. I think I could see him also being another contender for that 6th man of the year. And I think he probably is favorited to win it if that does happen, obviously.
Who would be
the best bench player?
Yeah,
Miles Reed exists, buddy.
I have a question. I was going to say, can I ask you a question? If Beal goes to the bench, since I'm assuming you're going to slide Booker over, or do you just put Grayson Allen up to the shooting? Well, I was going to say, how does it work? Who do you want to replace him if he moves to the bench?
Okay.
That's tough. I guess that'd be the only thing that's like against having, one of those other guys step into the starting lineup. Maybe Royce O'Neal for defensive purposes.
Move KD down to small forward and Booker down to shooting guard. Okay.
That's probably what I would do. Maybe Grayson Allen back there because, he was in it for all last year, had the best 3-point percentage in the whole NBA. So that's definitely possible. Because, the thing that I hope to see from this team kind of goes in that is I want this team to get up more threes. I thought that this team put up so many mid-range shots, and that's because, that's what their three best players are great at. But I thought that's kind of what hurt them in the Minnesota series, because they could not get a lot of three-point shots up, and because of that, they kind of lost the math problem there. I say it all the time, how the NBA sometimes is just a math problem. If you're, already starting the game basically down 8-9 points because you're not getting up as many threes, that's already a huge disadvantage for your team. So that's kind of what I hope to see from the Suns, is more three-point attempts, and I think they will get that if they get less, isolation, out of the starting lineup.
I think Okogie would just fit better. Like, if you have Tyus at the 1, Booker at the 2, him at the 3, KD 4, and then Nurkic 5, I think, because you got the 2 scorers, and I think even Tyus is an underrated scorer, and Nurkic can score you points if he has to. I think that I would go with that, so, because he brings so much extra defense and length, and I think he's also, not the worst offensive player ever. I mean, he could be worse, but I think Royce wouldn't be a bad option. I think even if you want to experiment with a Nasir Little type guy, because he's another one of those really, really good defenders who's just lengthy and block shots, can guard the perimeter if you need to. I think the thing with the Suns this year, why I could see them being a top 2 to 3 seed, is because they have a lot more depth, and that was what they were lacking last year, was depth. That's why teams like the Knicks and the Timberwolves are so good, because they have pretty decent. They at least had decent depth. I mean, the Timberwolves don't have crazy depth anymore, but
yeah. So Phoenix, they're definitely going to be relying on their depth a lot more this season, which is something I'm looking forward to. Actually, I forgot to update the roster sheet there. They decided to actually waive Nasir Little and EJ Liddell to give minutes to their rookies that they just drafted, Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro, to try to get some minutes in there and try to get some more youth in there. So they're going to have some, opportunities to contribute next season. And, at the very least, it provides the Suns some actual young players that they could throw in a trade if they want to get better.
If we aren't calling him Special Agent Oso by the 4th game, I'm going to be disappointed.
I think it's also Ighodaro. He's from Marquette.
Ooh.
So he's Dwayne Wade, basically.
He's Dwayne Wade.
All right, are you guys going over or under? I'm going over.
I think I'm going to hit the over. I'm confident in this team.
Yeah, I'll go over as well. I just don't see, last season was very shaky for them. It was very shaky for them. There was a lot of inconsistent play. We were making jokes about how this is the Brooklyn Nets 2.0 because these three players aren't all playing at the same time. And they still won 9 games, which is bad in a loaded Western Conference. So I'll go the over for 46.5. Even if it's 47 wins, I'll still take it.
Yeah, until they run into Katie's nephew in the playoffs again.
Right. All right. Well, next up, we will go to the Los Angeles Lakers. As Nick's having a time there with his phone.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, let's get to the Los Angeles Lakers. Last season, they won 47 games. They're over under this season. It's about the same, 45.5 wins. And
I'm going on.
They basically have the same team. The only big thing is they lost Taurean Prince. Obviously, they hired J.J. Redick to be their new head coach. They drafted Dalton Connect, who's expected to be a big rotation player. And, of course, that Bronny James Jr. kid.
No.
Well, first off, before we actually get to talking about the Lakers, do you guys think that Bronny and LeBron will be on the court together? They'll get that out of the way the first couple weeks of the season.
Yes.
Bronny's going to play G League for the rest of his career until he becomes a Derek White clone, and then is decent at basketball.
I was about to say they'll get the whole thing out of the way pretty early, and then they'll send him to the G League, and then he'll probably be there for the rest of the year unless someone gets injured and they need to bring him up.
He's a privileged Derek White. He's going to get better opportunities, but he's going to be like a Derek White type player, I think.
Privileged Derek White is one of the solid takes.
I mean,
Joe, you gotta control them fuckers.
Dude, they're dogs. I can't control them. What do you mean?
bro, I don't know what you're talking about.
Joey, Joey's controlling the dogs. We'll go to Nick. Nick, what is a question you have for the Lakers?
What can JJ Redick do with Austin Reeves? Because I felt like coming off of the Nuggets series when they made it to the Western Conference Finals the year before, I felt like Austin Reeves was like going to solidify himself as kind of like the third man out there and for the Lakers. And I don't think Darvin Ham kind of extracted everything that he could have out of him last year. You know, he didn't have a huge jump in production. He didn't dip by any means. He became a little bit better of a playmaker. But I just think Austin Reeves can be a really big part of their offense, and I'm going to be watching for that. And the other big question I have is how the defense looks with two undersized guards out front, with D'Lo and AR running out in the front of their lineup. I'm just going to be wondering if the defense is able to hold up. You know, Anthony Davis works better with another big man next to him. I think LeBron is a three. And then they got two small guards that aren't great defenders up front. So,
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
hammering
think.
the under for this
Here, go
team.
ahead, Jackson.
I'm hammering the under. I'm putting the mortgage on the under. That team they got two good players. That's it. Two good players that can work in this. They like that backcourt. They're not gonna be able to guard anybody. And then on offense, D'Lo's streaky. Austin Reeves. I think Austin Reeves is gonna be good, but I don't think he's. I think he's just gonna be like a little better than last year. I don't think he's gonna be like anything special. And I don't think LeBron and AD can carry for a whole other. I mean, like they can carry, but I don't know if it's gonna be to like a top seed. I think their ceiling's like a 5th or 6th seed. I don't see it being any more than that. Just because, I mean, they added Dalton Connect, but they needed to do way more this offseason. They needed to move D'Lo and I think get a better point guard, a better either defensive point guard or a better shooter point guard. Even though D'Lo was pretty good from beyond the arc last year, it's just I don't trust him in the playoffs, and I don't see them really making the playoffs this year. I'm not that confident in the Lakers.
Yeah, my question was going to be actually, what are the odds or what is the percentage that you would put on it that the Lakers could be any better this year than they were last year? Like, what are the chances that they win a playoffs, that they're better than play an appearance, win a first round game, and that's it? That's really all we saw from the Lakers. What are the chances that they could be even better than that?
Honestly,
I don't see it.
I don't either. I think it's
I
like
think there's a decent chance. I mean, they're bringing in a new coach. I think JJ Redick's going to, provide a lot of structure and organization to, what they have going on both on and off the court.
That's sorry.
I think a successful season for them would be to get out of the first round, and that's definitely what I think that their goal is going to be going into the season. Aside from just getting LeBron on the court with his son and having Dalton Connect kind of become a good part of the rotation. Jackson, you're absolutely right. They only have two good players, and those are two of the top 10 players in the world, though. So
yeah,
two consistently great players. I don't want to disrespect D'Lo at all or AR.
That's what we said about Darvin Ham and Frank Vogel too, though, was that they were bringing something new, that they were bringing some new like structure to this team.
Well, Frank Vogel, I think, was a scapegoat. Like when he won a championship, then LeBron got injured midway through the season, and then they traded for Russell Westbrook, which was just horrible. Like I don't put that on Frank Vogel at all, and I just think Darvin Ham wasn't ready for the job. I mean, JJ Redick is the unknown thing. We really don't know how he will affect this team. I like it because I'm excited to see the Lakers actually look like a regularly organized basketball team finally, because they're actually going to play their young players. They're actually going to play, Dalton Connect. They're actually going to play their draft pick, which is awesome. I mean, the Lakers, they don't look bad. I mean, like you just said, I mean, LeBron and AD are great. Then the other guys, you really don't know what you're going to get or not. And maybe we can see a jump from, Austin Reeves. It's not like he's super, deep into his career or anything like that. My hope is kind of that we get to see the impact from those young players like Dalton Connect. Max Christie's going to play a lot more. That's kind of what I'm seeing with the Lakers, but I don't think that they will be much better than they were last season. I think a success would be competitive first round series. That's what I've got them at.
But see, that's the thing. That's the hard thing about the Lakers is, for me at least, like thinking about it, success for them, it's championship or bust at this moment because their championship window is so short unless they move LeBron.
It's not realistic though.
It's not realistic.
It's unrealistic, but it's what it's what it has to be because of how short their championship window is. It was the same thing for like the Buccaneers back when Tom Brady signed with them. Their championship window is like that or like that. They don't have any they don't have many more prime years of their.
I get what you're saying. They got to move somebody and make a change in their roster because fundamentally the problem with the roster is, or the problem with the team is the roster. Like I've been thinking about this a lot. Like how LeBron operates best is when he's kind of creating his advantage, like his second best player, i.e., Dwayne Wade, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis. It's when like they're getting advantages off the ball from him. Like he's bringing a second guy into the ball, and then Kyrie, D Wade, whoever. So with AD, it's just a little bit tougher because he's a different player. Like he's more involved in the two-man game with LeBron than anything, and I just think that doesn't suit LeBron best. Like he's best when his 1A is out on the wing using those advantages. So you're already dealing with that, and then on top of that, like the Lakers had a perfectly constructed roster when they won the title. And so now you've got AR and D'Lo who are not as consistent. They're streaky, and they're not at the same level as like previous LeBron wing guys like Ray Allen and J.R. Smith. They're not on that level. And so it's just like the roster isn't where it needs to be. Do you guys think AR and D'Lo are on J.R. Smith's level? I've been really contemplating that. I don't think so. I think JR was better.
I mean, regular season wise, playoff wise, I think JR.
Playoff wise, JR was the lights out.
I think regular season AR and D'Lo, like D'Lo can go for 40 or 35 on any given night. Those are just kind of rare to come by. He kind of reminds me of the J.R. Smith type player more than Austin Reeves because D'Lo's just like he's the scorer. He's going to be the one that just fires away. Going back to like competitive first round series, like this team is not that far off from the team that did go to the Western Conference Finals 2 seasons ago. Like if they could get the right first round matchup, like they beat Memphis in the first round last season to get to that, and Memphis I think is worse than at that time. Even if they're competitive, if the right matchup kind of breaks for them, then maybe they could make a run. They just got to get the right matchup.
Dude, is Memphis's like roster? Like, I think Memphis matches up better with them now because I think a lot.
We'll get to Memphis.
Yeah, we'll have Memphis. That's a conversation. I'm just saying, if the Lakers could get the right matchups, they could, do more than just a first round series, maybe. But did we think the Lakers would be able to do that against the Grizzlies at the beginning of the season? No way. No way. So you just never know what moves could happen throughout the season because, it's different from the offseason. Like everyone's 0-0. Everyone thinks that they're going to be good, except for, maybe 5 or 6 teams that know that they want to be super bad. But in the middle of the season, when teams start to figure out more who they are, maybe some things will open up for the Lakers to be able to make a trade. We just won't really know until that time happens.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else or go ahead, Jackson.
Yeah, I don't know who the right matchup would be for them in a first round series at this point. That's the only thing I really have.
Well, they beat the Kings.
Yeah, but I don't see the Kings making the playoff. Like, I'm sorry, and
the Kings smoked.
Oh, that's what we're talking about next. Let's go to the Kings.
Let's go to the Sacramento Kings next.
They smoked.
Jackson,
all right.
You're not up on the Kings this year. Their win total is at 46.5.
I could see them maybe winning 46, but I don't see them going over that. That's the thing.
Well,
what did they do this offseason, Miles?
They got DeMar DeRozan, which is huge, I think. That's a big upgrade over Harrison Barnes. And really the only other guy that they gave up was Davion Mitchell. They traded him to Toronto because they drafted Devin Carter, who's kind of a similar, player to Davion Mitchell. And they basically kept the rest of their team. Malik Monk re-signed. That was a player that I definitely thought was going to go somewhere else to get a starting job. He's cool with staying in Sacramento. You look at this team, they did win 46 games last season. The West was just so competitive that they ended up in the play-in tournament and, lost to the Pelicans there. But this team is still, they still look good. They definitely have some potential. Joey, you talk about the Kings. We know you've loved the Sacramento Kings.
I was gonna say I stayed quiet the whole time during the Lakers because I knew I was going to talk a lot for the Kings.
Lovely.
But honestly, the Kings, I think, are just going to hover right around that 46. I think Vegas and BetMGM got it right on the nail. I think they're going to hover right around the 46, which will probably.
It says over or under, Joey. Over or under.
You ever heard of a push?
Just kidding.
Fine, I'll go over just to be helpful, I guess, because I think DeMar DeRozan's a huge upgrade over Harrison Barnes, just because he's just a more consistent scorer, a more reliable scorer, and a more clutch player. And I think, honestly, at the end of last year, without Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, who was everyone's favorite to be sixth man of the year, I think it's just, if they're healthy, I think it's just going to be a little bit different.
Did you say?
Yeah, man. Doesn't matter how you say his name. That boy can shoot.
Red Rocket. I don't know what's
Kevin.
his name.
I call him that. We're definitely
Kevin Huerter. Anyways, I'm behind the Kings as well. I would also take their over here at 46.5. I'm interested in the De'Aaron Fox, DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis experiment, because my big question is whether or not the ball can find enough shots with those three on the court. I hope that the answer is yes, and I'm also going to be looking for if they're the worst defense of all time.
They will
because
I'm scared of their defense. I'm scared.
Yeah, they don't have many defenders. I don't know if they have one guy who's primarily a defender, but what I hope to see from them is that the same as the Suns. I hope that they start 16-0 and that they are another team competing at the top of the West, because I think that they have a shot to really be at the top of the West. I think they can be a top 5 team probably in the conference if everything breaks right for them. And I think a successful season would constitute a home court advantage in the playoffs would be a very successful season.
I would tend to agree with that, honestly. I think that a successful season would be 3 or 4. I think that's realistic. I don't think they'll get as high as 2 or 1. First round series win would be great. I'm a little worried about them, in the playoffs, but I think they could do it. I'm definitely scared as heck of their defense.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that the Kings, I know I have Kevin Huerter on there, but I think Keon Ellis, they started him at the end of last season because of his defense.
Yeah.
He could start games. Devin Carter could start games just to provide that defense, because, De'Aaron Fox used to be a pretty decent defender. DeMar and Sabonis, the rim protection is what scares me with this team. They don't have it. It does not exist. Their bigs are Domantas Sabonis and Alex Len, and they're big bodies, but I don't think that's enough, really to deter a lot of teams at the rim. The Kings are going to be in a lot of games where it's 130 to 128 or in the 140s even. And who's just going to score more? Who's going to come up at the end of close games?
Yeah, I think the Kings are going to be able to pull out a lot of those games for real.
Yeah, it's also another thing to think about, who at the end of games, who's getting that last shot between Fox and DeRozan, because they're 2 of the most clutch players in the NBA.
I think
whoever has it going.
Yeah, whoever's hot. And you can
whoever
even give
has
it
the
to
ball.
honestly, give it to Sabonis at the end of the game, and he'll make the right play.
Exactly. I was going to say that. The plays at the end of the game, that's what I would say too. A lot of their offense is just all right, after the other team scores, let's get it out quick. Person with the ball brings it up, throw it to Sabonis at the top. He'll just go hand off on either side, and a play gets made. It gets automatic pick and roll 5 seconds into the shot clock. This is one of my favorite teams to watch throughout the league, and now they got another guy that can, make a lot of plays at the end of games. My main hope is that we can see some improvement, because after the Kings, made that jump 2 seasons ago, we've seen the same thing like throughout both seasons. I mean, their defense kind of improved a bit last year. Their offense fell off, or it fell off a lot. We got to see if it can improve a little bit some more, and I think they'll be a lot more successful. But this may be a team, we question their defense. This may be a team that can get by in the regular season without the defense.
Yeah.
It's just the playoffs that does scare me a little bit.
I have a hot take for you. With the
another hot take. What is it? Mike Brown, Coach of the Year.
No.
Again.
And honestly, I have no basis for this hot take other than just a gut feeling.
Okay.
They're going to be a top fit. They're going to be a top half of the league defense this year, team defense this year. Top half of the league, which is huge.
All right, Joey. That's your second strike on the hot take. The first one, what was it?
The
first one was bad. Second one was good. Third one was bad again.
Ty Lue fired by Christmas.
Ty Lue fired by Christmas.
You know what? Fine. You know what? Fine.
Jackson doesn't even think the Kings.
I'll change the Ty Lue one. He'll get fired by New Year's. Sorry.
No, you don't
give him an extra week.
He's not getting fired this year.
Jackson doesn't even think the Kings are going to make the playoffs. So
I think he'll be a playing team.
Jackson doesn't know ball. That's why.
I don't think it's crazy that they could be in a playing team. Like, this is a wide range of areas. And I mean, this team, heck, they were 14th in defense, which is the top half of the league last year. They replaced Harrison Barnes, who's one of their, he's the guy that usually goes on your Kevin Durant of the world, and they replaced that with DeMar DeRozan. Like,
you can't guard a part.
They're going to be relying a lot on Keegan Murray to improve defensively, get stronger, score a little bit more. I mean, I think we could see a jump from him, even though DeRozan's there. I think Keegan Murray is going to get a lot of three-point shots up, especially if they decide to have Kevin Huerter off the bench. Keegan Murray is going to be the guy that is going to shoot a lot of threes. I mean, didn't he have a game last year where he made like 13 of 16 threes? Like, he had a game where he just went off. Mm-hmm. They're going to ask him to take a lot of threes. Like, when you look at their starting lineup, I think he's going to have more three-point attempts than the rest of the starting lineup. Well, I guess Fox increased his volume a lot last year as well, so that could continue a little bit, as well as Nick throws his phone onto the desk. But yeah, Sacramento Kings, good offseason. Excited to see how they play this upcoming year. Now, let's finish off with the Golden State Warriors, who also finished last season at 46 wins. They lost to the Kings in that play-in game. They lost Klay Thompson, of course. That's the big thing. He goes to Dallas. They also lose Dario Saric. He goes to Denver, and they signed Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, and Kyle Anderson, three decent role players in their own right. Let me see if I can find their roster. There is their roster. Something that automatically stands out to me about this team, couple things. One, they're a sneaky deep team. They have a lot of, decent guys, kind of like the Clippers, where they got a lot of decent players that could get thrown into different roles. But that leads me to who is starting for the Golden State Warriors this season?
Probably Steph Curry.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Jackson, what a hot take.
Is that the only hot take you're going to say? I mean, it kind of leads, like, their second best play. Like, who's their second best player? Probably Jonathan Kuminga after his, season last year. And he's not even a guarantee to start on this team because Steve Kerr loves to play his veterans and Kuminga is kind of in and out of the lineup. So I'm kind of knocking off a whole bunch of things here. The thing I hope to see this season is I want to know if Jonathan Kuminga can force himself into a full-time starting role for this team, because right now, I mean, Jonathan Kuminga is their second best player. He's not a guaranteed starter. I don't know where the Warriors will go with that. I hope they start him, but then it's like, then you're having Draymond Green come off the bench. Probably not going to happen. Andrew Wiggins, he didn't have a great year last year, but he's a guy that they're looking to trade, so he's probably going to start to get minutes, and you don't want Draymond starting at the 5. You're probably going to have Trace Jackson-Davis starting. Like, it's just a weird team with a lot of different pieces. Like, I could see them going either way this season. Their over-under is at 43.5 victories. Probably the under. But, I mean, they still have a lot of decent players. Nick's going the over.
They'll be 41-41.
Wow, right at 41 and 41. Okay.
It's Steph and then a bunch of people who need to prove
I
themselves.
think
Besides,
that Steph's still going to be able to win the games.
Wait, did you guys lose Nick too?
Yeah.
Okay, I was not
He's
sure if it was just me.
He's gonna sneeze.
I wasn't sure if it was just me or not. Oh, because I'm on that college Wi-Fi. But
No.
No, but I mean,
His internet's
just
gone.
thinking about. Oh, he's back.
oh, there he is. Nick's. Oh no, now Nick's gone again. Jackson, go ahead.
So just thinking about the Warriors, like it's literally just Steph and a bunch of people who have to prove themselves, which is kind of terrifying because I mean, like besides Draymond's already proven, but Draymond's getting old. Like I think they'll start Steph, Hield, Kuminga, Draymond, and Trace. But I could see him going Looney at the 5 as well. It's just
No
they're-
Pods?
I think Pods will be a 6-man. I think they'd rather just start Buddy Hield.
For more, then I worry about the perimeter defense.
Man, that defense would be terrible.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's the thing. It's just a weird team. I don't know. I'm just not that confident in the Warriors this year, I guess.
Yeah, I also am. I'm going to go under with them. I see where Nick's going the over though, and I know his internet. He texted saying his internet keeps going in and out, so he's going to be out for the rest. But
Okay.
I get where he's saying because Steph Curry is still Steph Curry, and Steve Kerr is a great head coach. Like they can do it. Like it is fully in the realm of possibility that they still make a play in at like 45 or 46 wins. Like that is still a very big possibility. Personally, I'm with you though. Like I think Kuminga, Pods, and Trace Jackson Davis are great young talents, and that could be the future for the Golden State Warriors after Steph Curry. But I don't think Steve Kerr and the rest of the Warriors themselves are ready for that yet. So they're still going to roll with an Andrew Wiggins possibly, or a Buddy Hield and a Draymond. And it's just like, unfortunately, even though those guys are still be solid, even if it doesn't give you your best chance to win, I think this should be a learning year for him because you really need to start building for another. If you want Steph to have another couple of years to be competitive, you really need to start developing those guys a lot quicker, I would say, because the Andrew Wiggins, the Draymond Green, they're going to be gone. Kayvon Looney, like those guys are out the door next year. They're trying to get rid of them this past year, possibly. Like, if they really want to keep their window open for Steph Curry for the next couple of years, I really think they should just keep with the young guys, even if it's not going well.
I would probably agree with that because when you're also looking at the Western Conference as well, something we didn't talk about with the Clippers, because I would probably say the Clippers and the Warriors are the two worst teams of this division. They're going to be on that bubble of maybe making the play-in, maybe missing. You got two teams that I know, it's not even just a Jackson thing. I think that the Grizzlies, who didn't make it at all, are going to be back in the run of things. And I also think that the Houston Rockets are going to be a lot better. So but those are two teams that were completely out of the play-in. So you just, with all those other teams in the Western Conference, is this a year where like Golden State maybe takes a step back here? And I don't want to see it because, I mean, Steph Curry, I don't want to see a year of Steph Curry, basically a wasted year of Steph Curry not really winning anything. But I feel like it'd be best for the team if, like you said, Joey, they would be able to develop their players more.
It would even be beneficial to Steph Curry because even if he at his last 2 years of the NBA in a couple years, he is only shooting and he's still not super and he's not driving, but he can still pass, dribble, and shoot. If you got all these young guys still around you and they've developed into potential all-stars, which they definitely have the potential to be, I think that's your best chance for Steph to win another ring. I think, especially in a couple of years when LeBron's out of there, when Kawhi's possibly out, like a couple more guys out of that division, maybe.
Yeah,
who knows?
sorry, we're talking about like Steph Curry and all this. We're kind of like just like ignoring the fact that he is kind of an injury prone player. And it's the same thing with Kawhi. If Steph goes down, this team plummets. This team is not winning many games without him. So it's like,
Right.
I mean, we've seen him have some like smaller injuries, but if he has like even like an injury that keeps him out for a month or two, this team is going to flounder. This team is not going to be as good, especially because he's another year older and he can't do all the carrying by himself.
Yeah, this past year, he at age 35, he played 74 games, which was the most games he's played since 2017 season. So it's been a while since he's played this many games this past year.
Mm-hmm.
And then after he did that, he played 51 games. 2 years later, he only played 5. Like, who knows how this past year, when he tried to make them into the playoffs for one last year with that big 3, who knows how it's going to affect him this year?
Yeah, so that season where he played in 5 games, the 2019-20 season, the team was kind of in a similar state it is now, just minus the young players. So this was coming off of their 5th straight finals appearance. Kevin Durant just tore his Achilles and bolted to the Brooklyn Nets. Klay Thompson tore his ACL at the time from the finals. DeMarcus Cousins had an injury. He left. This was a team that was basically Steph, Draymond, that's it, and they were not good the first few games of the season, the first 4 games of the season, because it was just Steph Curry. All the defensive, pressure was on him. And on the 4th game of the season, he broke his hand. Aaron Baines, shout out to Aaron Baines, broke his hand, and Steph Curry missed basically the rest of the season besides 1 game before COVID hit. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise for them because they were able to develop, at least play some of the younger players. Eric Paschall at the time, Jordan Poole, rookie season, was able to play more, and some veteran guys like at the time Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson III was good for them. They played minutes and they were able to get dealt at the deadline for future assets. And because they were the worst team in the league that year, they got the 2nd overall pick. Kind of flubbed. They got James Wiseman, didn't really work out. But I mean, they got top draft picks. So like, not saying that I want Steph Curry to get injured, but I mean, if the Warriors had a Grizzlies type season where, they're worse and they, not even just because of injuries, if they're just worse and they could get a higher draft pick in the lottery next season to get another young player, that is, that's what you would probably want to see. I don't think that they would be bad enough to be in that Cooper Flag type of thing, but 9 or 10 is not a bad place to be, I don't think, if you're the Warriors. And they may just get that regardless. You're looking at what I just said. I mean, if all those teams, that made the postseason last year make it again, and the Grizzlies and Rockets jump over the Warriors, which is possible, this is the 12th best team in the conference, which anything could happen in the lottery.
I'm glad you mentioned the Grizzlies because it brings me to my next hot take for for the Warriors. I think after this season, the Warriors will have a top 10 draft pick going into next year.
That's not a bad take. I think it's not even that.
I think they're going to pull exactly what the Grizzlies did, where they got like a number 9. They get a Zach Edey, who obviously we don't know, and we could talk about the Grizzlies, but it fits perfectly. If the Warriors go into next year, even if it's not Cooper Flag, because obviously that's the big name. Shout out Cooper Flag for signing with New Balance today. But even just someone in the top 10, if you get someone in the top 10, that's another good young talent that even if he's not a starter for you right away, he's a bench player. That's an effective role player that you desperately need on this team.
Golden State as well, because I was actually curious to make sure we weren't saying all that for nothing. Golden State does have control over their next 3, 4, 5 first-round picks. They have control over their next 5 first-round picks. So they have room to, if they end up, struggling, they could go in that direction and get their own first-round pick. The Warriors, it's just such a difficult situation to have Steph Curry and young players that need time to develop because obviously, do they buy in, try to trade those young players for a piece? They weren't really what were they in? They were in the Paul George talks, Lowry Markkinen, but they weren't willing to do more than like Moses Moody, bunch of firsts, bunch of seconds, pick swaps, and dead salary. Like, so we know this team, they want to move forward with Steph, but also develop their young players while also signing veterans and also having some bad contracts. They're trying to do a bunch of different things. They need to figure out what they want to do. I guess that's the big thing. They got to figure out what the heck they want to do.
They got to pick a direction and just go with it. Honestly, the organization as themselves is a very well-run organization. So if anyone can do it, it's definitely them. But they definitely have to make a decision soon, because as soon as you do that, you know they're going to do it really well. But they're spreading themselves thin.
To me, their ceiling is playing, and Steph Curry makes magical plays in the fourth quarter of a playing game to get a bottom seed, and they lose in 4 or 5 games in the first round. That's what I see with the Warriors.
They definitely have a lower ceiling to me than the Lakers, because, I mean, LeBron at least has AD. I mean, there's 2 stars on the Lakers, and they're both 2 less stars, or they're both stars that are less injury prone, in my opinion, than Steph Curry. I mean, everyone talks about how injury prone Anthony Davis is. Anthony Davis has shown the last 2 seasons that he's really not this injury prone player, that people are overhyping it and overstating what they're talking about with that. But but I have the same argument with them. I think their championship window is even smaller, at least as of right now, because they don't have that 30 and under player. Like, Davis is only 30. They don't have that guy that can help bring Steph Curry to another championship at this moment in time. They could get it, but I don't think that they should risk. I don't think they should risk their future, because I think, honestly, at this point, if they wanted to, I think LeBron could play longer than Steph Curry, also because of Steph's injury history, like I've mentioned a couple times. So I think the window is just larger for the Lakers, and I think this is going to be the start of the decline for Steph Curry's career, not necessarily playing wise, but like accolades wise and like playoffs wise. If that makes sense.
I've compared this to, Kobe's final heydays with the Lakers, and I know Kobe got injured, tore his Achilles, and then, the team just struggled from there. But, a legendary player, still very, very good player. I mean, Steph Curry, one of the best players in the league, still top 10 in our list. But the rest of the guys around him, you just don't know. It's a mix of one, older legend player that still wants to win, plus young guys. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's hard to see that working, especially when, like I mentioned at the top with the Warriors, we don't know who is the second consistent player for the Warriors. Like, it's Jonathan Kuminga, but he's not a full-time starter right now.
There just isn't a second. There's no Robin to Batman right now. Like, nobody who's even like considered I think in terms of play right now, I think their second best player is on the level of the Clippers' third best player, on below the level of the Lakers' third best player, which is kind of crazy to think about. I think Kuminga you can make an argument he's up there with, like, I don't even know who the third best player for the Clippers is. I think it's Kevin Porter Jr., just because I think Kevin Porter Jr. is he's gonna surprise people with his play. I think, I don't know. I don't like to say that because, again, he's a bad person, but like, I've seen the dude play, and the dude gets buckets.
Oh, we saw it too, dude. Loved watching him play. It's just the off the court stuff. But you're right, Jackson. I mean, when you look, like, if we had extended our top 50 list and made a full top 100 players list, is it even Kuminga? Would he be in the 80s, 90s probably? That's even making the list. I mean, he's probably 80s, 90s, and that's probably the best.
Yeah, he's
barely making 80s, 90s, and that's their second best player right now. And it's just a difficult spot for the Golden State Warriors. But you guys got anything else with the Warriors before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think they are going to finish as the worst team in that division. I think that it'll be followed by the Clippers, Kings, Lakers, and then the Suns will come out on top. That's my prediction for the division as a whole.
Okay. Yeah, this still should be the most competitive division because like even then like the Warriors, a team with Steph Curry on it being the worst, like that's still pretty good. I mean, because he's going to give you a chance in any game. Still, the greatest shooter in the world, clutchest player in the league last season. So that is it for the Pacific Division. In the next episode on Friday, we will be going over the Southeast Division. We'll be switching conferences and going over to the Southeast. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.